Your opponent offers a queen trade. Your queen has nowhere better to go. The exchange even damages your opponent's pawn structure. Every positional principle tells you to trade, so you do. One move later, you're no longer better. The queen trade came with a hidden positional cost. The recapture on f3 changed the pawn structure, and suddenly your knight loses its central outpost. Would you still make the trade? Welcome back to the Syndicate. You are here for more chess weapons, so let's get down to business. At move 5, I deployed my Dawn Colt, but it was a misstep. It gives black the opportunity for a fourfold punishment. 2 swift kicks, a nasty pin on c3, and the liquidation of my hitman duo. Instead, e3 is much more precise. It brings us one step closer to fracturing the opponent's mob structure, while simultaneously unloading our bad hitman. Plus, e3 clears the path to the d3 district for our crew, giving us a clean fallback plan if the hit goes sideways. The opponent's move, hitman to d6, raises a serious positional question. Do we force the duel between the hitmen right now, or hold fire? If we pull the trigger, their molly recaptures with tempo. If we don't, their hitman is ready to pin our Dawn Colt on c3. Blunderbox actually prefers the trade, even if it gifts them a free tempo. Why? Because our hitman is currently just loitering, without a real contract. And of course, this immediately throws a wrench into their master pinning plan. I missed that idea, and after Molly d2, they tried to trick me with Dawn Colt b4, so I protected my hitman with e3. The rival family thought doubling my mobs would cause me trouble, but that thug on f4 is actually a good asset. My opponent continued with Dawn Colt a6, another positional mistake. Since most of his mobs are clogging the white districts, I was determined to trade my light-squared hitman and cause chaos in their mob structure simultaneously. Keep in mind that in a closed position, this kind of trade is bad for us, even if their mobs are clogging the same districts our hitman uses. Sometimes, however, a great opportunity is looming. Here, Blunderbox actually likes the trade, since we are going to eliminate the rival's hitman too. As a result, our weaknesses on the light districts have been completely alleviated. So, what would you do in this legendary closed battleground from Lasker? The board is locked down, but you have a clear shot to initiate a bloody duel between the hitmen. Surprisingly, Chipface says to hold your fire. An Octopus knight is already tracking toward the f5 district, threatening to suffocate our entire operation. That is why Hitman G6 is the only viable contract here. We slide into the shadows and prepare to hunt down the monster the second it shows its face. Moving on with the autopsy. I castled, but Chipface started beeping for Dawn Colt e5. At first I thought the order was to terminate the c6 mob, but that's not the case. They're more than happy to toss their rat to the dogs while chopping up our mob structure at the same time. In my rat strategy video, I laid out the golden rule. Any asset that chokes enemy coordination is our rat. We don't execute them. We keep them alive to slow the operations down. That's exactly what's playing out here, and Black's best move is actually to whack their own rat voluntarily. In the game, my opponent decided to babysit the rat with his most precious asset. I visualized a nice, suffocating octopus beast on c5, so I ordered Dawn Colt to carry out the hit. The response was brick B8, and Blunderbox suggests to just take the outpost and let them crush our mob on B2. That kind of greed can be punished brutally. Pause the video here if you want to find the sequence, or simply witness the execution. I played brick B1 with the idea of B4 to further cement the C5 outpost. However, it's a rookie mistake. The opposition is able to undermine the whole operation with A5, optimizing their mob structure in the process. After the rival family attacked my molly, I retreated to E1 to cover the tactical strike on D2. Finally, they decided to get rid of the rat on C6, which was the engine's choice too. With F3, I strove to chase the defender of the rat away from the downtown in order to gobble down the asset on C6, but in their infinite greed, they used the exact same weapon against my crew member. Bad idea, bad timing. After the massacre, armed with both a crushing positional and material advantage, I managed to suffocate the opposition's operations and ultimately liquidate them from my city. I racked my brain to come up with a plan to utilize my advantage on the queen side in case my opponent plays sharply. Now, it's your turn to find a winning path for white before I share the golden nuggets I dug out from the deep mine of Blunderbox. First, we deploy our bricks on the third rank, locking them in where they can protect our backward mob. Next, we bring out the heavy hitters to open a second front on the battlefield, attacking the king side and creating permanent fractures. Once we maximize the pressure, we either push our passer mob to the limit or cash in our final dividends on the king side. Now let's analyze a Jobava game between Carlson and Naroditsky. Daniel opted for C5 on the third move. Grandmasters like this line against the London system for a reason. After they welcomed each other properly in the downtown, Black positions his hitman on G4. A clever choice, as E6 is going to shut him out of the game completely. Blunderbox's top choice is F3, but that takes away the natural developing spot from our Don Colt. In that case, their hitman did a clean job, and after ordering him to resolve the issue of our Don Colt on B5, Black secures the minority attack. Carlson opted for Hitman E2, recapturing with Don Colt from C3. I really like this variation. Black's hitman often uses our Don Colt on C3 as a sitting duck, and it also blocks our C-mob from muscling into the center. As a bonus, there is a trappy line too, after Molly B6 and Castle, in case the opposition grows too greedy. If the rival Molly breaks into our perimeter, liquidating our asset on B2, the counter-strike is immediate and brutal. Our brick rolls onto the 7th rank. Then, depending on the status of their godfather, we either force a lethal clash between the queens to tighten our grip on the downtown, or establish a suffocating stranglehold with the C4 and C5 push. If Molly dares to slay A2 as well, our Don Colt initiates a relentless, systematic manhunt, tracking the prey across the city. Pause the video here to calculate the final strike, or simply witness how they are forced to sacrifice their brick just to stop our Terminator beast on C7. The Grandmasters, however, continued with natural developments until they reached the so-called Carlsbad structure. White's usual plan here is to position an honorable member of the syndicate, ideally Don Colt, on E5, while supporting him all the way from E Street. Black is not defenseless, though, and Naroditsky disrupts this plan by jumping on E4. As a response, White prepared to block the minority attack with Molly E2. Nevertheless, Daniel made a desperate attempt to carry it out anyway, but Magnus shut that down completely with C4. The following operations from both sides aim to gain the upper hand in the downtown. Magnus tried to create weaknesses on the queen side, but it was a bit too ambitious. Daniel walked him right into an ambush. Magnus realized the danger instantly and ordered Molly back for defense. Freeze the frame here to figure out why the Don Colt on D4 is completely poisoned, or simply witness the execution of the good old smothering mate. Here comes the next big question for Black. You have the advantage, and the predators are about to tear each other apart in close combat. What is your move? Our predator's creed seems straightforward at first. If we cannot reposition Molly to terrorize an important target, she has to die with honor. Let's reevaluate the situation from another angle. Your bricks are slightly poorly positioned here, and you can't fracture the mob structure either. Does Chipface recommend the bloodbath here too? He absolutely does. And what about this situation? It's getting tricky now, because we cannot evaluate Molly's fate in a vacuum. This transaction directly affects the position of the Octopus monster. Therefore, Blunderbox slightly favors the retreat. That's exactly why Daniel decided to pull back. It was a tough decision. The trade is not much better, as Black has to sacrifice their mob advantage just to keep the initiative with their passer. If today's queen trade made you question positional principles, the hedgehog takes that idea one step further. There, I rewrite the predator's creed and show how her placement can completely change the strategic evaluation of a position.